Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Silas Branch. Hello, Daryl. We heard you had a rather close call on your latest delivery. To call the Candleman determined is an understatement. It's alarming how eager he is to claim new victims. But don't worry. His burns have a peculiar tendency of leaving no scars whatsoever, assuming the victim survives. Don't ask us how that's possible, because frankly, we have no clue how third-degree burns can just disappear without so much as a trace. But given how well you dealt with the situation, we'll be sending you on your next Cribble-Rock Run delivery shortly. Just as before, any and all information you'll need is included below. It is beyond important to us that you don't go to this neighborhood unprepared. Customer name, Silas Branch. Address, 2231 Lesher Road. Residence description. Old abandoned house in severe disrepair. Large holes litter the building's walls, and a large willow tree has grown in what used to be the living room. The tree is so tall and so massive that its branches have broken through the roof, hiding the ruined building almost entirely with all its leaves. You're also likely to spot several dead birds scattered within the tangled, overgrown yard. Regular order: large vegan pizza, topped with apple and orange peels, coffee grounds, powdered eggshells, Epsom salt, and honeysuckle flowers. Customer description. At a distance, Silas resembles a heavily suntanned elderly man. His face is accentuated by numerous wrinkles, dimly glowing yellow eyes, and a notably thick beard. He typically wears a dark green shirt and pants, accompanied by a blue-grey flannel jacket. Up close, however, Silas appears notably different. His body is comprised entirely of plants. Withered brown grass makes up his skin, imitating wrinkles with their folds. His hair is comprised of pale willow leaves, while enormous leaves, ferns, and weeds come together to imitate his clothing. The flannel jacket is the only thing not physically connected to him. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for Silas's house, be sure you take a bag of silver vine sticks with you from our supply closet. Keep them on your person at all times once you reach the customer's residence. 2. Before making the delivery, be sure all the car's windows are rolled up completely. 3. Leave any cellular or electrical devices in your car. Silas absolutely despises modern technology. 4. The front door to Silas's house has decayed completely off the doorway. Knock on what's left of the frame to get Silas's attention. 5. Do not step even slightly past the door frame during the delivery. Not only will you irritate Silas, you'll also anger his pets. They absolutely hate strangers. 6. Avoid making unnecessary sound around the house. The willow tree is home to a large colony of pipistrelles, and they are easily disturbed by loud noises. They're small, but extremely tenacious. 7. In addition to the pipistrelle colony, a pair of European wildcats live with Silas as pets. At least one of them will be hissing at you when you reach the doorstep. Be careful not to provoke them by annoying Silas or entering the house. While they aren't terribly big, they are extremely savage. You're almost guaranteed to lose a finger if they attack. 8. When Silas answers the door, don't be alarmed by his angry demeanor. While he is not particularly ill-willed, Silas is stubbornly unsociable and extremely cantankerous. His default facial expression is an irritated glare. 9. Don't talk to Silas outside of delivering the pizza unless he talks to you first. Again, he's quite antisocial, as well as a tad bit temperamental. 10. If for whatever reason Silas starts a conversation with you, do not reference birds of any sort, and especially don't talk about parrots. Silas hates birds as a whole, but a co-worker of his has made him particularly resentful of all species of parrot. 11. If Silas asks if you're any good with plants, be very careful with your answer. Say no, and you'll probably be dealing with his pets shortly. Say yes, and he might actually decide he likes you. However, you might end up getting a little too close to the willow tree if he thinks you're lying. The more indifferent you sound, the better. 12. Regardless of what happens between you two, Silas won't do anything aggressive until after he's received the pizza. For this reason, Do not hand him the pizza until after he's paid for it entirely. Get back into the car as quickly as possible afterwards, preferably without acting panicked or alarmed. 13th. Silas should pay for the order with approximately €20. However, there's a good chance he'll try to shortchange you. If he does, politely insist he pay the full price of the pizza. He'll reluctantly give you the missing money afterwards. 14. As a testament to Silas's rude personality, he most likely won't tip you. Be certain you don't hint even slightly that you're annoyed by this. He may send his pets after you if he feels you've become insufferable. 15. If Silas ever stops glaring at you, it's best you back away slowly. The only time he ever stops glaring is when he's bracing himself to attack. 16. If Silas stops glaring, he'll shortly start making a high-pitched murmuring sound, followed by angry shouting, along with wild green grass rapidly flowing over his eyes and through his skin. Try to be back in the car before this happens. He's about to explode into a surging mass of grass and weeds. On top of that, his pets will take this as a signal to attack immediately. 17. If, when Silas sends his pets after you, throw the silver vine sticks behind you as you run for the car, its effects on felines are equal to catnip and will be more than enough to distract the wildcats for a few seconds. This should buy you enough time to reach the vehicle. As for the pipistrelles, all we can hope is that you get into the car before they do. 18. Make sure you're back in the car before Silas reverts into plant life completely. He's all but guaranteed to catch you otherwise. 19. If Silas completely reverted after you got back into the car, don't drive off immediately. Silas will, without a doubt, reach the car before you can leave his house. He'll shake and rattle the vehicle for a while, but he shouldn't be able to break in as long as the windows are up. He's incredibly versatile and more than capable of squeezing through tight spaces, but he lacks raw power. 20. Try to wait until Silas has released his grip on your car before driving off. If you manage to catch part of him under the wheels, he'll become a serious problem for future deliveries to Cribble-Rock Run. 21. When leaving, be extra cautious of the trees next to the road. There's always a chance they'll interfere with your deliveries, but Silas and the trees have a connection. They won't hesitate to help Silas deal with a troublesome delivery driver. 22. If any of the pipistrelles got into your car, try not to let their frenzied attacks distract you from leaving Cribble-Rock Run. Once you've left the neighborhood, roll down your windows. At that point, they'll be far less concerned with you and more concerned with getting back to their master. Afterwards, we recommend you visit an urgent care center to get a rabies shot and treatment for any bites and scratches. Rules for escaping. 1. If Silas managed to catch you, he'll ensnare you within the willow's roots, deep in the basement beneath the house. However, you'll most likely be unharmed, save for a few of the willow's roots digging into your skin. You can certainly escape, but there's several precautions you must take first. 2. Don't make any attempt to escape unless there's visible daylight. You'll be able to see it shining through the floorboards. Silas works as a day shift security guard for a nearby museum. You won't get far if you make a run for it while he's still in the house. 3. The roots under your skin should come out relatively easily. However, we must be crystal clear. Don't even so much as touch them until you're ready to escape. The tree will shake and groan violently once it's lost hold of you, and the wildcats and pipistrelles will react to its distress promptly. 4. The tree has multiple individuals trapped within its roots. When making your escape, try to avoid letting them grab you. The tree keeps them from dying, and they're all desperate to escape. They'll beg you to help them. Sadly, there's nothing you can do. The roots that pierce the skin become impossible to remove after 20 hours. Most of those victims have been there for weeks. They'll only hinder your own escape. 5. You may notice an individual wearing our uniform stuck inside the willow's roots. He's what's left of Charlie, one of our previous employees. If you get a chance, please remind him. We still miss him back at the restaurant. You should also thank him. Not only is he the reason this section of the rules exists, he's also the reason there aren't more employees stuck in that tree. 6. Speaking of Charlie, listen to anything he tries to tell you. Being inside the tree for so long has made him delirious and unstable, but he's a caring individual and diligent to details. He'll probably try to help you, and his observations may just be how you escape. 7. Do not attempt to escape by going upstairs. Aside from the likelihood you'll run into Silas's pets up there, the tree won't just stand idle when you break free of it. Its actions will be delayed, but eventually the roots will try to reclaim you. You'll be an easy target on those old, brittle floorboards. 8. While there are several potential exits from the basement, the best and safest way out of the house is through the red cellar door. However, be absolutely sure you don't hear the wildcats outside before you open it. They're rather fond of setting ambushes on the staircase outside the door. We must insist you find another way out if you hear those cats. 9. If the cellar door isn't safe, there are several high windows you can climb out through. Silas keeps a number of smashed televisions and other electric devices downstairs, several of which could be perfect as makeshift stools. That said, be careful which ones you use. Several of those things are bad at supporting weight and will definitely break if you try standing on them. Given everything that's after you, you'll probably only have enough time to try once, so make it count. 10. Once you're outside, be prepared to run. The pipistrelles will be ready for you at that point, as will the willow and the wildcats. There's also a chance the other nearby trees will take interest in the situation. 11. When you do get to the car, do not attempt to leave the neighborhood. Instead, go straight to Granny Longpaw's house with the ham. Her house happens to be a few houses down the street. The trees will be far too riled up at this point. You'll barely get off Lesher Road before one of them totals your car. Wait several hours before leaving. That should be plenty of time for them to calm down. That should be everything you need to know about Silas Branch. For the most part, he'd rather have nothing to do with people at all. Truth be told, if he could get the pizza without human interaction and without using a phone, we'd probably get orders from him daily. But because he can't, delivering to him is quite hazardous. Charlie was hands down our best employee before Silas got him. He's also one of the many reasons our employees get vaccinations for animal-borne diseases on a regular basis. That said, delivering to him is in our best interest. The trees tend to be less troublesome when the deliveries go well. Not to mention, Silas tends to become irate without pizza. When we initially lost Charlie, we actually refused to take further orders from him. Not long after we did, however, our restaurant's sinks, dishwashers, and toilets stopped working. A thorough inspection revealed the cause to be a number of tree roots breaking through the water pipes and cutting off their flow. The roots, interestingly enough, were from a willow tree, despite there being no willow trees for miles of the restaurant. There's still no explanation for how the roots even got there, let alone how they broke the pipes completely in half. But after a long discussion with Silas, the roots disappeared and the pipes were repaired. It is for this reason he's still a customer. If the willow's roots can cross miles underground and break through solid steel like it's cardboard, we'd rather not find out what else Silas is capable of. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to the Garbler. Hello, Daryl. From what we've heard, your delivery to Silas Branch went surprisingly well. Truth be told, we're rather amazed you managed not to thoroughly piss Silas off, given his irritable disposition. For that reason, we'll be sending you to Cribble-Rock Run on another delivery presently, this time for a slightly higher risk customer. As always, we'll once again provide you with any information you would potentially need to know about the customer. We should warn you, however, that this next customer can be a bit repulsive. Customer name, the Garbler. Address, 1026 Tina Never Lane. Residence description, moderately sized, heavily dilapidated two-story house. The roof has caved into the second floor entirely, while countless logs, rocks, telephone poles, bones, and pine branches have been integrated into and around the first floor's structure, almost like a giant nest. Regular order, sardine pizza, uncooked, topped additionally with chicken bones and frozen mice. Customer description: the Garbler is a massive, almost incomprehensible amalgamation of dead animals. It is constantly adding new body parts to itself, while also removing the older ones as they become unusable. For this reason, the Garbler's appearance is always changing. At the time of writing, its body consists of 3 asymmetrically sized hoofed left legs, 1 clawed right leg, and about 14 front limbs of various species, with numerous mismatched animal skins covering its body like a macabre quilt. Several of the front limbs have been irregularly extended through additional parts, with the longest measuring about 7 feet. Its head has about 19 rabbit ears, 4 beaks, 7 antlers, 32 eyes, 2 snouts, and 1 tusk, all scattered across an impossibly large skull. Its back is adorned with countless wings, limbs, claws, horns, and antlers, ending in a grotesque train of innumerable tails. The mouth contains so many teeth it won't properly close, and there appears to be multiple tongues within. The Garbler also carries a large, heavily stained burlap sack wherever it goes. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for Cribble-Rock Run, make sure you're completely covered in clothing from head to toe. None of your skin should be even slightly visible, and be certain it can't be easily made visible in any way. We also ask that you wear a set of tinted shades or goggles for this delivery. 2. Do not head for the neighborhood without taking a whistle from our supply room. Test it to make sure it works before leaving. There's a good chance you'll be needing it. 3. If the Garbler isn't home when you arrive, blow the whistle. Not long afterwards, you'll hear what sounds like multiple people and animals screaming at once. The Garbler will appear shortly afterwards. 4. You'll know the Garbler is close when you notice a horrible stench in the air, followed by a garbled combination of growls, bird calls, squeaks, and human voices in the distance. The only times it doesn't make this sound are when it's sleeping, excited, or hunting. 5. Once the Garbler has arrived, the first thing it will do is inspect and search you thoroughly. It'll sniff and look you over curiously, tugging and scratching at your clothing all the while. Remain calm and be certain it can't see you under the clothing. It never stops looking for new parts. 6. If the Garbler saw any part of you under the clothing, back away slowly and recover whatever the creature saw. With any luck, it didn't see anything it likes, and the delivery will proceed. 7. Whatever you do, do not let the Garbler see your eyes. It's relatively picky when it comes to picking parts, but it can never resist a pair of eyes. You'll be in serious trouble if the abomination sees yours. 8. Once the Garbler has lost interest in you, it'll motion at the pizza. Open the lid and place it on the ground. It will not pay for the pizza until it's had a chance to look it over. 9. After the Garbler has thoroughly inspected the pizza, it'll pay for the pie with a combination of paper bills, coins, jewelry, glasses, and metal tooth fillings, pulling the items from its burlap sack. It's best not to think about how or where the Garbler got those items. 10. Use a plastic bag to collect the Garbler's payment. Along with any valuables it collects, the creature keeps countless body parts in that sack. Whatever payment you receive will be covered in blood and filth. 11th. Turn around and leave the second the pizza's been paid for. There are certain things in this world you'll wish you could unsee after you've already seen them. How the Garbler eats is one of them. Rules for getting away. 1. If the Garbler at any point decides you have a part that it wants, it'll voice its enthusiasm with a sound reminiscent of high-pitched giggling. This should go without saying, but run away immediately. 2. The beast's misshapen body makes it slow, so you should be able to get away initially. However, the creature is extremely persistent. It has a strong desire to collect new parts and won't let you escape easily. 3. Do not run for your vehicle. While we wouldn't normally suggest running through Cribble-Rock Run, getting in the car and starting the engine will take longer than you have time for. And while the Garbler isn't particularly fast, it's more than strong enough to flip your car. 4. Should you hear loud cracking and shaking behind you, prepare to dodge sharply to the side. The Garbler has found a suitable object to throw at you. There's a very good chance the object is a street lamp, and the creature's aim is surprisingly spot on. 5. Keep an eye out for roadkill as you run. If you manage to find any, make sure the Garbler sees it. The beast won't be able to resist stopping to examine the corpse. 6. If you hear the sound of multiple small objects hitting the ground, the Garbler apparently really wants you. It's shedding multiple parts to pick up speed. However, this might work to your advantage. If you can keep away long enough, it'll hastily turn around to recollect everything it dropped. 7. Should the Garbler catch you, it won't take long for it to start ripping off the features it likes most about you for itself. Before this happens, blow the whistle as close to the monster's ears as possible. Its many ears make it extremely sensitive to loud noises. The resulting pained thrashing will give you a chance to get away. Yelling loud might work too, but the whistle is most reliable. 8. If you manage to lose the Garbler and get back to your vehicle, immediately hide in the trunk. Even if your pursuer isn't nearby, you should not attempt to drive away until the beast is back in its house. There's a great chance it'll slam your car off the road as you attempt to leave. 9. Eventually, you'll probably hear several songbirds nearby, followed by a car driving down the road, or a group of people walking nearby, or possibly even someone from our restaurant calling your name. No matter what you hear, don't leave your hiding spot. If the Garbler's call wasn't a hint, the creature is an excellent mimic, more than capable of copying any sound it hears. It's highly skilled at creating ambient settings to lure potential victims. 10. Before giving up completely, it will check your car to make sure you aren't inside. Fortunately, it won't register your trunk as a possible hiding spot. When the beast doesn't find you, it will resume its chaotic call and reluctantly head back inside. It's home. 11th. Do not leave the trunk until you can no longer hear the Garbler's call. Once the sound is gone, quickly get into the front seat and start the engine. 12th. Be ready to floor the gas pedal once the engine starts. The Garbler will hear you escaping and won't hesitate to attack. You'll have just enough time to drive away before it's too late. That's about everything you need to know about the Garbler. We have no idea what it truly is or where it came from, and frankly, we're fine with not knowing. It's a miracle we haven't lost any delivery drivers to the creature yet, given how it is certainly responsible for several missing persons reports, among other things. The only reason we deliver to it is simply because of the sheer number of regulars we already have in the area. Combined with the value of the items it pays with, the risk is typically worth the reward. Of course, any and all interactions with that creature must be treated with extreme caution. 2 years ago, 15 hikers and backpackers disappeared in the national park near Cribble-Rock Run. Nearly all of them were found on the side of a highway, alive but seriously injured. Each one of them was missing various body parts, ranging from ears and fingers to entire limbs. When asked what happened, they each described a similar scenario. They were walking through the woods when suddenly the air filled with countless bird calls. They then heard a loud crash, followed by a child frantically calling out for help. When they tried to find the child, however, everything changed. The birds and the child went silent and were replaced by a loud, frantic giggling and a nauseating stench. Next thing they knew, someone had knocked them out and dragged them to the highway they were found by. Apparently, half of them were actually awake when they were being dragged, but none of them could give a description of the assailant. You see, there was one specific detail all the victims had in common. They were all missing their eyes. So please, if ever you suddenly hear bird calls followed by suspicious voices, or worse, smell a horrible decaying odor filling the air, run and never look back. The Garbler likes many things, but it can never resist a beautiful set of eyes. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo. Nick and Rick's Pizza, rules for delivering to Sam Ninso. Hello, Daryl. From what we've heard, things very nearly got out of hand on your latest delivery to Cribble-Rock Run. We probably should have specified how likely the Garbler was to grab for your glasses. That said, we're beyond relieved to hear the situation didn't escalate further, and we'll be sending you on yet another delivery to Cribble-Rock Run shortly. Much like the Garbler, this next customer tends to be a high risk for deliveries, but with the information we've provided below, we're certain you'll be just fine. Customer name, Sam Ninso. Address, 2038 Maple Boulevard. Regular order, extra large mushroom pizza, topped with wood trimmings and plaster, crust made from wood polish and lacquer. Residence description. The residence changes its appearance frequently. One day, the house will be a quaint little one-floor cottage, then the next, it'll be a fancy split-level home. It's even been a modestly sized mansion on occasion, complete with lawn decor and fancy sculptures. However, certain details of the structure never change. The porch light is always flickering, the left window next to the door is always broken, and the porch is always a raised deck, covered on the sides with thatched wooden paneling. Customer description. Ninso's appearance changes with the residence, and it's just as variable in every way. Rules for delivery. 1. When delivering to Sam Ninso, there is one rule that is by far the most important. Do not approach the house, stay on the sidewalk, and don't even approach the yard. It is critical that you don't get closer to the house than necessary. 2. Be sure to keep an eye on where you're standing during this delivery. There's a good chance the ground under your feet, and even the sidewalk itself, will slowly slide you towards the house. Be certain you don't get pulled past the sidewalk this way. 3. Once you're in front of the house, call out to Sam that his pizza has arrived. Almost immediately afterwards, the front door will open and a head will peer out at you. 4. Sam will try to insist you bring the pizza directly to the door. He'll give a laundry list of reasons why he can't come get it himself. He's on house arrest, there's a cake in the oven, or the cold air is just too much for his feeble elderly figure to bear. He might even claim he's incapable of leaving the house, which isn't entirely untrue. Again, do not approach the house even slightly. Be firm and insist that he come to you. 5. Multiple figures might appear next to the first, trying to back up Sam's points. It's worth noting, however, that the persons peeking from behind the door most likely aren't correctly moving their lips to match the words you're hearing. Additionally, listen long enough, and you'll realize all those voices are in fact one voice trying to sound like multiple people. Again, do not get closer to the door. 6. During this time, you'll probably hear one of several different things just out of view behind the house. It may be a couple arguing angrily, someone screaming in pain for help, or a friendly-sounding dog or cat. It may even just be someone calling you over by name. Whatever it is you're hearing, you'll find yourself wanting to check it out further, but it's critical that you don't. What you're hearing is nothing more than bait to get you closer to the house. 7. Eventually, Sam will give up, and the figure peeking out from behind the door will then withdraw back into the house. Immediately afterwards, several white tendrils resembling giant cobwebs will extend towards you from the doorway. Avoid touching them, and don't let any of them get behind you. Sam wants the pizza, but he's an opportunistic eater by nature. Anything he can catch is fair game. 8. One of the tendrils will drop an assortment of jewelry onto the sidewalk, while another will motion for you to hand it the pizza, step back slightly, then give it the pie. 9. Do not attempt to collect the jewelry until the tendrils have fully retracted into the house. Sam is incredibly opportunistic, and attacking while you're picking up his payment is an excellent opportunity. 10. Keep an eye on the broken window by the door. There's a chance an enormous eyeball will fill the other side of the window entirely. Should you see it, Sam Ninso has decided he's keenly interested in you. Be prepared for the tendrils to come hurtling out of the house without warning. They're guaranteed to make an attack if Sam looked at you directly. 11. Should one of the tendrils grab you, your best option is to hold on to anything you pass near as you're dragged towards the house. Sam's grip is relatively weak, so even the slightest resistance will be enough for you to get free. As long as you break loose before you reach the porch, you should escape relatively easily. 12. Should you hear loud cracking and groaning coming from underneath the porch, get back to the car quickly. Several long, thorny, spider-like legs are about to shoot out from underneath the house. It is important that you don't let them reach you. There's no escaping those things once they're latched onto you. 13. If you're too slow to get into the car, Sam might start reshaping himself in an attempt to catch you, along with your car. You'll know this is happening if the porch light stops flickering. This will quickly be followed by the house cracking and creaking like it's ripping itself apart, numerous spidery legs sprouting from underneath the house, and every single window being filled with giant silvery eyes. This almost certainly doesn't need to be said, but don't let Sam catch the car. He'll never let go again. 14. Thanks to his size, Sam dislikes moving long distances except for very special circumstances. So chances are he won't chase you past the closest neighboring houses. However, this doesn't mean he's given up entirely. Check your rear-view mirror consistently when leaving. Hopefully, you'll see nothing unusual as you leave the neighborhood, and all is well. Rules for being chased. 1. As you're leaving Cribble-Rock Run, there's a chance you'll notice one or more slender, horribly misshapen quadrupedal figures chasing after your car. These are the corpses of Sam's past victims, and also the figures you saw at the door. He's integrated large parts of himself into their remains, altering and reshaping them for use in running down escaped prey. These proxies of his are extremely fast, and Sam is incredibly skilled at using them as a pack. However, using them is exhausting for Sam, and he often wears out after several minutes. Keep away from them long enough, and he'll eventually give up. 2. Keep account of how many proxies are behind you at any time. Sam typically hunts with 2 to 3 of them, but he has 8 individual proxies that we know of, and usually tries to keep them split up to improve his strategic options. If more than one of them is chasing you directly, Sam is trying to keep your attention focused on them to distract you from your surroundings, creating an attack opening for his other proxies. 3. As we said before, the proxies are extremely fast. Their maximum speed is around 50 miles per hour when running straight. As such, they'll probably catch up to your vehicle eventually. When this happens, let them get within about 10 feet of your car, then slam on the brakes. The damage they'll take from running into your car should keep them from being able to chase you further. 4. Get back to speed immediately after the proxies crashed into your bumper. Not only is this a chance for the other proxies to strike, but the ones you hit won't hesitate to damage your tires if you give them the chance. 5. While you should always watch the road carefully while driving, be especially watchful for any nails or large wood splinters on the road. Sam will often send a proxy ahead of you to sabotage the roads he thinks you'll turn onto. You'll be in trouble if you get a flat tire while he's after you. 6. If one of the proxies charges you from the front, do not hit the brakes. Slowing the car down is the single worst thing you can do in this situation. Instead, swerve to avoid it the best you can. The proxy will almost certainly hit you regardless, but it's in your best interest that they don't go straight through the windshield. Sam will all but have caught you if that happens. 7. If the proxies breach the inside of your car at all, watch out for wood splinters flying through the air. Even the smallest piece of that wood is connected to Sam. Should the splinters touch you physically, they'll probably dig deep into your skin, causing excruciating pain. This is just another way Sam tries to distract you from his proxies. 8. If they're particularly persistent, turn onto Lesher Road. Its residents are less than fond of Sam Ninso, and they won't take kindly to his proxies getting near their homes. Half the time, the proxies won't even keep chasing you once you've turned down the road. The one downfall to this strategy is that the angry residents might turn on you afterwards. For that reason, only do this as a last resort. 9. Before Sam gives up entirely, he'll make one last attempt to stop you. As you'll probably have already noticed by now, each of the proxy's limbs end in a long piece of large, jagged wood. With the right amount of force, the proxy can dislodge them from its body and send them careening wildly and hazardously through the air. Be prepared to swerve before this happens. Sam's broken several windshields and wrecked more than a few cars this way. 10. After you've escaped, send your vehicle to the repair shop next door to our restaurant. Even if there's no physical damage, those proxies are more wood than they are flesh. And given also how Sam often lays wood splinters on the road, there's a good chance there's wood fragments deep within your car. Tell the mechanics you had an argument with Sam, and they'll know what to do. They'll probably need to keep your car for a few days, especially if there's actual damage. So we'll provide you with a temporary vehicle for deliveries in the meantime. It is beyond important that you don't simply drive the car home. That should be everything you need to know about Sam Ninso. He's easily one of the more unusual residents of Cribble-Rock Run, and by far its largest inhabitant. And while he's highly manipulative And we also have no clue where he gets all that jewelry from. Most of it is antique, easily a few hundred years old. He pays consistently and is truthfully one of our more polite customers, aside from his predatory tendencies, of course. Of course, like many of Cribble-Rock Run's residents, we've had a few unfortunate incidents with him. The worst by far was the first time we ever delivered to Sam. Brandon, the poor driver we sent that night, didn't know what we know now, and thus made several mistakes. First, he tried to go straight to the door. Remarkably, he managed to escape Sam's tendrils and claws, but immediately after he drove off, the proxies gave chase. His second mistake happened here. After swerving in several circles and crashing into the monstrosities a few times, Brandon became partially covered in wood shrapnel. But eventually he got them out and actually escaped the neighborhood. He returned to our restaurant half scared out of his mind. He almost quit, but we were able to change his mind with a generous bonus. However, this was not the end of that poor boy's misfortune. When he drove home that night, his car was visibly covered in wood splinters. This was Brandon's third and final mistake. Any wood from that house is a living, conscious part of Sam, and no matter how small the piece is, it's a piece that Sam can feel, and as a result, track and locate. That next day, Brandon didn't show up for work. We tried calling him, but were met only with his voicemail. After the second day, he missed work. We resolved to check on Brandon personally. But when we came to his address, we were greeted by a strange sight. Brandon's house had changed appearance significantly. It now sported a large raised porch, along with a constantly flickering porch lamp. Not only that, but someone had apparently broken his left front window. It was only after we approached the home ourselves that we understood what had truly happened. Brandon's house disappeared entirely the next day, and even now Brandon himself is only considered missing. Sam left no trace or possible evidence Brandon had ever existed whatsoever, but we unfortunately know right where he is. Our deliverers still see him every now and then, peeking from behind Sam's door, trying to coax them inside with a voice that isn't his own. So, do be particularly cautious when dealing with Sam Ninso. He's living proof that all is not always what it seems. And as the saying goes, a house isn't always a home. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo.